everybody. My name is Damari Cervantes.
My name is Ryan Fekrat.
And my name is Ayeneh.
Welcome to Sedaye Daneshjoo. On today's episode, we are going to be talking about social media, especially now because it's so popular, and in particular, how it impacts our mental health. So I kind of want to talk about what the literature kind of says for a bit, but also I want to talk about our own personal experiences with using social media apps. So in the literature, there is a very big body of research in terms of social media and how it impacts our mental health, and it's a bit mixed. So some pros of social media might be that for some people it provides an outlet of social support where people can find a community of like-minded individuals, and they might gain a lot of positivity from that. It may also serve as stress buffering, as they might be able to use social media platforms to be able to have friends online, and that really helps buffer against stress. Also, social media may help to even show perceived social support by seeing that there is a community of people that might be struggling with the same things as them. And they might be able to use social media to share personal experiences, seek information about mental health, and give or receive support. But there are also some cons to the flip side. So for people who use social media a lot and may use it in different ways, so for example, if they have a lot of apps downloaded on their phone, they might be switching through the different apps. It might be a risk for both anxiety and depression, which are both shown in research. So given the pros and the cons of social media, just in literature, I'd like to step aside from that a little bit and kind of talk about our own anecdotal evidence. So I'm curious to see how you guys use social media and if you see that there are maybe benefits or if it really just takes away from maybe your mental health.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and start with that. I have been using social media, I think, since I was in middle school.
Oh, wow.
Funny enough, I didn't have my own phone at the time, so I wasn't able to text or call, but I had like I think it was my brother's old phone, and I had like, I think Snapchat was my first social media app. And I was like in 8th grade. And I didn't get my phone until high school, which I think was beneficial because I know in previous years there was like some kids that had like Instagram in 5th grade, and that's like really concerning. But so I think since like honestly an early age, social media has been like a part of our lives, I would say. Some more than less, I guess it depends. I think it helps in some ways to, talk to your friends or keep in touch or see what's going on in their lives. And I think it's a great way to stay in touch with friends, but also, of course, there's some like bad things that come with it. What you see, especially I think Instagram, I think plays a big role in that. And I think setting like certain beauty standards or like, things like that. But also, what I've noticed, especially when I have TikTok and when I'm on TikTok, I think my attention span is like decreasing a lot. But it's so fun because like I'm seeing all these trends that are emerging, and I feel like I'm in touch with our generation at the same time. But I'm also like, I think wasting my time on those apps a little bit too much sometimes. But it is also a little fun. So
If being, this is what I think. If being in touch with our generation means that we are collectively lowering our attention span, I don't want to be in touch with my generation. I don't care. Like, I'm gonna go back to listening to like Bobby Darin or Frank Sinatra. Take me back to the that type of stuff. But I don't use social media. I'm starting to again. I call it relapsing. I'm starting to relapse a little bit. So my story with social media is I started in high school on Instagram, real innocuous. Went on, friended all the people that I knew in high school, and then I started friending people that I had seen online, like or who, because I competed in international competition in sports, and so I was friending other athletes online, but I never spoke to them in person. And so escalating like the interconnectedness, but those relationships were very superficial. And I remember the very first time I ever got my feelings hurt on social media was when I friended someone who I really admired, and they said like, oh, good job on that meet performance. And then after I stopped posting lifting, or it was powerlifting related stuff, they unfollowed me. And I was like, oh man, like that hurt. Like I thought we were really building something there. And so that introduced to me the idea that it could be a little superficial. The way that the rate of like normal connectedness and the results of normal connectedness, like when you're not a friend with someone anymore, that's like a big falling out, right? It can be, unless you're a very emotionally secure person. I was 13, 15, 16. I was not emotionally secure. In that sense, it was damaging. And that was the very beginning. At that zenith, that's when I started taking a step back. I'm not just randomly messaging people on social media. I'm gonna try to maybe go talk to them if I really want to go talk to them. I don't care to message them. And then somewhere getting into college, I just went cold turkey on Instagram, gave up my Instagram. It's not worth it to me. And I have more of a relationship with it. After that, TikTok became a thing. Musical.ly became TikTok. I became a TikToker. I started posting content on TikTok. Same stuff, fitness. I was really into exercise, still am. But I couldn't isolate my use of the app to just being a creator, because every time I open the app, I get a video. It starts me on the For You page. It doesn't start me on my profile. So I might find something that's interesting. The algorithm's trying to poke and prod me, see what I'm going to engage with the most. Oh, a video about tips to get into medical school. Well, heart, favorite. I'll save that one for later. Next one. Oh my gosh, residency is tough. 20 minutes goes by. Look at the clock. But it was so informative, let's go back. 30 minutes goes by. And it's just almost an hour just went by. And what did I get done? I've seen hundreds of YouTube videos of this same stuff. And I use YouTube. That's the type of social media. I like to think I use it a little more responsibly, or I'm a little more cognizant, because it's not just short form content. I'm against short form content, if you can't tell. But I think social media for me, I'm still figuring it out. I don't have the answers, but I want to establish like a clear limit of who I am as a consumer of social media, especially all this short form, like, attention lowering kind of stupid stuff. The funny cat videos is like a good trope. But things that are not bettering me as a person and I would not have engaged with had I not been on this app, it becomes a part of my life and a part of my mental bandwidth when I am engaging with all this stuff that I don't have to. It's not really benefiting me. But I do create. I do post videos on TikTok. In an ideal world, I would just post videos and get off the app. But the algorithm really does have a good way of putting its claws into you. What do you think about that?
Well, I think, you make a lot of good points, and so I kind of want to go back a little bit to what you were saying earlier about starting to build relationships on social media with people that you may not really know in real life. And so I think the introduction of parasocial relationships is really interesting in this day and age, where you see people on social media and you think that you know who they are, and you follow them and they may follow you back, but you really don't know each other. Even if you do chat, like in the social media features, because you don't see each other in real life, it's really difficult to say that you have a true relationship. Unless you do know that person in real life, and that's just a way of maintaining your relationship. But I think it's different.
Parasocial, you're saying, is getting to know someone online that you don't really know?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for example, following an influencer because they interest you. So, for example, I follow a lot of cooking channels, and so I might have a parasocial relationship with that person because they might see that I'm following them, and I might make comments on their thing that they respond to, but we don't really know each other. So that's, I think, what I would say is a parasocial relationship. But I think especially for a young person, that can be kind of damaging, like you were saying, particularly when it ends, but also because I feel like it might take away from relationships that you could be building in real life, especially if you are somebody who is school age. So you said that you were around 13 at the time, and then you too, Ida. So if there is a child who is 13, 14, etc., school age, and they are spending a lot of time online, I mean, what is that taking away from their real life?
We have a loneliness epidemic. You know, we can go back and forth on what the causes of that are, but I want to say social media is probably in the mix because of how it detracts from your real life interactions with others in the space where in that space of time where you could be calling your buddy up and saying, hey, let's go meet at the park or somewhere to hang out. Might just be tempted to keep it on a social media platform or on text, where we might go play basketball. Now we're going to game for an hour together or something like that. And maybe we game for 5 hours, and now I got school tomorrow and I get 3 hours of sleep, and that's a whole other conversation about screen time and screen discipline, media discipline with video games and things like that.
Well, I think that also makes it really difficult for children in particular to navigate because you're at a point where your brain is not fully developed. And when you're getting those hits of dopamine because you're seeing these short form videos, like you were mentioning, that really interest you and you like them, and you continue to see similar videos that you are enjoying and you're just doing that for a long time. For a kid, it's hard to find a reason to step away from that unless you're being told by your parents or something like that, get off your phone, or they take your phone away from you so you have like an actual physical barrier to getting to your phone. For children in particular, I think it might be problematic. I mean, research, like for example, Candace Ogders at UCI, talks about how social media is not necessarily detrimental to children's mental health, and that kids typically use it for maintaining social relationships that they do have in real life. But kind of going back to the point you were making of like spending time online versus together in real life doing something that may be more productive, I think is still a fault of having social media.
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree, there's definitely a lot more surface level relationships that come from having social media, whereas like having 2 or 3 good friends that you meet up with and spend quality time. I think for children it's definitely very difficult, and as parents, I can't imagine how parents would navigate that. I think just trying to have the kid involved maybe in something that they're passionate about doing, like in person, like a sport, music, like playing basketball is a good way. And I think maybe this whole social media thing starts with a conversation, because I think a lot of parents might not be as aware as how much their kids are on social media and how bad it can get.
Yeah, I guess I have a personal example because I didn't start really using social media until I was 18. So I think that might be different from a lot of other people, especially of our generation. But it was because at home my parents completely banned it. So my mom, for example, would go through my phone regularly. And so, if I did have some kind of social media app, I would have been caught. And so it was just against the rules. But I never really knew why because we didn't talk about it. So I think for parents, like you said, having that conversation is important to learn how to use it responsibly, because I think that it can be used if you are a kid. But, it should be moderated and, talk about.
Yeah, definitely, for sure. I think one thing I noticed when I started getting into a lot of social media and I was like on TikTok too much, TikTok was my main like battle here. I just uninstalled the app. I didn't delete my account. I couldn't go that far. But I uninstalled the app from my phone and I told myself, okay, get off the app, give yourself a break. It was hard at first. It wasn't easy, but after a while, there was so much more peace. But I will say when I did get back on, I was really confused at a lot of stuff going on and I noticed that I do get a lot of my information from social media.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
That's
Like,
the
I agree.
reason why it's so hard to quit it.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust traditional media. I look for news media in social media. And so that there's a problem of like, who are you getting it from? But now like MSNBC has their own TikTok.
Right. Yeah.
I think that's actually not a bad way to curate your stuff, to build your algorithm brick by brick. If you get stuff that's genuinely educational, I think that's, at least that way it's not so bad. I do think a lot of the short form, like comedy, like funny cultural stuff it's just, I don't know. I feel like I could do without it. Like if I want that, I can look it up independent of that. Like I can search for what I want, or even like go feed the economy, go to a comedy club, or there's just so many ways to like get that dopamine hit in a healthier way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Something that's maybe a little bit more rewarding or a little bit more intentional, I would say. I think that's probably an important part of the conversation is, not just scrolling for hours at a time, just because it's, I don't know.
It's addicting.
Yeah, addicting, really. But, having that intentional break to go and do something that you find enriching, that you find fun and entertaining.
Yeah, YouTube has started asking me like, do you want to take a break? But it doesn't work. YouTube asked me, do you want to take a break? It doesn't work. I think it's just, it is hard to regulate when you're not, like you're saying, regulate, and also to allow yourself those pleasures not being intentional. Intentionality is compromised by the algorithm recommending you things that you're not only things that it knows that it can, the format itself, it can hijack your attention span. I'm just remembering now, there's some research about like why the videos that are the most successful are like the length that they are, and it's something about like exactly human attention span. The fact that it could be shortening as a result of this, almost like an epigenetic change, that who knows what the long-term consequences of that are. I would just encourage the viewers to be very cognizant of their social media use, and that the people, hopefully their age, and they're questioning it just like we are, that they're not alone and struggling with it. It's a real struggle because it takes up time in your day. We only have so much time to be alive. How much of that time is spent doing a borderline like useless stuff?
Well, I guess, like you were saying, it kind of is an addiction. Because we have those hits of dopamine, so those feel-good chemicals or neurotransmitters. I think going into perhaps the next DSM, so the DSM-6, that might be a new mental illness or psychopathology, is phone addiction.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are struggling with that. So
here's my counter to that is, how can I rely on that diagnosis when my doctor is just as addicted to their phone as I am? That's why I would encourage people, especially with this particular etiology, is that the change has to come from within. You have to really, because your doctor's not going, what are they going to do? How are they going to treat it? They're going to take their phone from you like a parent or a teacher would, like at an exam. So are you going to go to therapy for your phone? You're always going to have access to it. That's like an alcoholic going to therapy and then going home with like a beer in their pocket. You know, I think it really has to come from within. You have to want to regulate.
Yeah. Well, I think people do want to get better. And I think that's why we're talking about it, because we do recognize that social media use and excessive screen time is a problem. But I think kind of going forward, I kind of want to talk about what we can do to maybe better ourselves, or maybe tips for our viewers on how to manage our time on social media, or how we can use social media in a productive way.
I got one. Make using your phone a negative experience. Okay, you want to talk about hijacking your brain? Do it against the phone. Hijack your own brain. Put that app on that makes you feel bad about the amount of screen time you're using, the one that like tracks your screen time. Put alerts on your phone that tells you you've been using it for this many minutes. Things that make you feel bad. You're not trying to like, if you are a mentally and emotionally stable person, you can do with feeling a little bad. It's going to be okay. You'll be all right. But putting those notifications on your phone will reverse the process of the association that your brain has made, that you've made, feeling good by using the phone. Just an idea.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just like things like maybe just deleting the app, or like, you know, taking a step back. Is it affecting my study habits? Do like some sort of reflection with yourself and see what changes need to happen. Yeah.
If it's truly an addiction, then
that's tough.
sometimes it's hard to go cold turkey. So sometimes you might even think like to taper off your app use.
Right. I guess you have to think about, like, for me, when I deleted TikTok, I was addicted. But I thought about, well, I care more about reaching this goal of doing well on my exam. And so that I took that as like overpowering my addiction. So I think just thinking about things that maybe are changing in your life, and like how social media negatively impacts that. And I think, how much do you value your goals? How much, like, you know what I mean? And outweighing like the cost of deleting an app versus like, you know, keep it going but not succeeding where you want to.
Yeah, I think maybe when we're using social media so much, it's hard for us to really see the effects. So I think that's really great, just to take a step back and see where it does affect us, because it might be affecting our mental health in ways that we might not think. Maybe our sleep, maybe how we're dealing with our friends and family, especially if we are just going to social media and not really maintaining those relationships. But thank you guys so much for sharing your experiences today. I hope with our viewers you might relate, so I hope you find this helpful. But thank you for joining us today on Sedaye Daneshjoo.